Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I wanted to do a quick video just talking about my recent experience going to a card show, showing you a few things that have come in the mail since then, and also talk about an unfortunate experience on eBay. So let's kind of jump into it. So over the past weekend, I went to the local card show where I live. It's in a place called Schaumburg, Illinois, which is about, half hour, 35 minutes outside of Chicago on a good traffic day. It's the same show I've gone to before, where I usually go about once a month. What was different, it's usually the first Sunday of the month, but what was different about this one is one of my buddies was trying to sell his cards at the show, so went there early and tried to help him set up a little bit. It looks like he was having some success by the time I left that day, but I also ran into three people that are also make content on YouTube. That's not a common occurrence when I've gone to that show before, even though I know they're there, but we just have never really met up before. So when I got to the show, I helped my friend set up a little bit, and then I walked around the show and I purchased the one item or two items that I did, one of which from one of our other friends who also was selling some cards at the show as well. And I'll show you those in a second. But it was really nice getting an opportunity to run into Scott Maz, who's got a channel, and I'll put their links in here below. He was nice talking to you for a brief minute before he had to run out. I know he picked up a few things before he left. Then I was also able to run into Jason, Everyday Card Collector, and also Steve, who does Vintage on Vintage. And we took our picture together, and we talked for about maybe 15 minutes or so before I had to actually leave for the day. But it was really nice connecting with some fellow collectors in the area, and it's nice to be able to have like a group where we can kind of talk about going to card shows in the future and meeting up with local collectors, which I think is like half the fun of going to some of the shows, is like walking around with people as they're picking up items, because our interests often are very different, even though we have a lot of things in common. And then I also ran into a viewer who came up and introduced himself to me, and that was a complete surprise to me. And it was so nice to meet this young man who was actually at the show for a little bit and on his way to the White Sox game that afternoon up in Milwaukee. So unfortunately, the Sox didn't win that day. They haven't won in a while at the time I'm taping this video. It's just right before, I'm doing it on a Tuesday evening, so it's right before the Cubs and Sox kick off their series at Wrigley Field this week. Neither team is playing very well, but somebody has to win, and maybe the White Sox can finally win one. All right, but yeah, let me show you what I picked up, and then I was given some gifts too, so that was really cool, so I wanted to share those with you as well. All right, so the big purchase I did was this one I've already done a short on, but I wanted to share it again, and that is the 1952 Topps Monte Irvin. This is the redback version of the card. This is the second 1952 Topps card I picked up this year. I picked up two different Hall of Famers at the same show, so I'm slowly making some progress on that one. That's one of my goals. Happy to be able to pick it up. It was actually buried amongst a huge number of graded cards that were predominantly modern. And then there was this one little 1952 Topps slab that I could see sticking out. You'd only see like the top of it, and I recognized it pretty quickly. Wanted to look at it, looked up comps, offered a price. We came to an agreement, all within about like a 60-second transaction. So I was happy to be able to pick this one up in my collection, and I liked that the dealer was like no hassle and was willing to deal and not just hold on to his stuff, which I really appreciate when I go to shows. And the second one was one of my other friends that was selling some stuff. He had a lot of 1961 Topps cards. He's actually working on putting that set together. So he, I guess, had upgraded this Luis Aparicio. I went ahead and bought the one that he had for sale off his table. It's got a little stain on there. That's why it's, even though it's rated a 7, it's got an ST. It's got a qualifier on there. But it's really hard to see. It's just beneath his right eye. If you looked at it real close with a loop, you could definitely see it, and so it's not like it's undetectable. But it still presents extraordinarily well, and it's just a very pretty copy of this card, and it's actually one of the better images, I think, of Aparicio in his card collection. So that was really nice. All right, some other things I wanted to show you. So I'm not sure if this individual wanted to share that I got those items from him, so I'll just kind of keep him anonymous at this point. But he was able to come up to me. He let me know he wanted to bring me some things, so we met up at the show. First stack of things he gave me was it's actually an empty matchbook from Stan Musial's restaurant, which I thought was kind of cool because he knew I was a Stan Musial guy, and my dad was a big fan of his. So it was really cool to pick that up. And then he had a series of White Sox schedules from 94, 96, 97, and then again in 2002. All of which are seasons that I was going to games pretty consistently. So it's kind of a walk down memory lane. I used to collect some of these. Maybe not so much the White Sox ones, but I had a lot of them during the Bulls runs. And I would kind of keep a record in there of whether they won or lost the game in the actual pocket schedules. I lost those things or got rid of them. I no longer have them, but that was really cool. He also gave me two other things. This one's going to be a little hard to show on the camera. But it's actually a big World Series poster from the 2005 White Sox. It was already framed, so that's a really nice little addition in here. And whenever I'm able to kind of set this place up as a card room, my office here, I'll find a place where it can predominantly feature along with the other pictures I have from the 05 World Series. And then finally, this was like the really cool thing he's tucked in there, and he really, this was very generous, I thought. So he has a collection of autographs, from the Perez Steel collection, and this one, I think it is maybe the celebration cards. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me. I'm not as versed in some of his designs, but this one is Luis Aparicio, and it's actually signed. And it's like in a custom page. I don't know if this is how they came or if this is something that's this collector created himself, but it's really cool. So I've been able to just kind of put this right into a nice binder of some of my other autographs that I have that are already like in protected pages. Some of the photographs, and this one is just a beaut. And look at that autograph. It's just fantastic. So this was just more than generous, and this person knows who they are, and I wanted to thank them deeply again for these gifts. And I wanted to publicly acknowledge that I received them, and I was grateful for the gifts. All right, so a couple things on eBay. So this one I'm a little bit conflicted on. I purchased it 2 weeks ago, but it didn't ship until just the weekend, and I felt like I had to kind of go out of my way to be able to get an answer from the seller. I mean, the guy was nice enough, the seller was nice enough to be able to cut a deal with me on the card. So I think it'll be overall a positive report, and I did receive it. It was packaged well, so there was no problems with that. I wasn't given heads up of why it was so delayed with shipping until I asked. And I just think, as someone, I sell some things online too on eBay, and if I'm going to be delayed and not getting the cards out in about like a 72-hour period, I usually let the customers know that I can't do it until like Saturday or something like that. And 9 out of 10 times, they're all fine with that. It's often when you don't communicate it that sometimes there's issues. And there was not communication about this. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. And I was worried that, was it coming at all? Was I getting swindled on this one? I know I'd be protected in some ways, but I didn't want to have to go through that hassle. But anyway, it arrived, and it's a beautiful item, and I'm happy to be able to pick it up. It's like on my little Stan Musial list of cards I'd like to be able to acquire. It wasn't on my list for this year, but I had been watching it, and I just got a deal I couldn't turn away, and I was happy to be able to acquire it. So we got Stan over here in the corner. I have one other card that I purchased through one of the massive sellers on eBay, and I've had great experience with them throughout the years building sets. It was actually a graded card, and it's for a set I've been trying to complete, and it is a big-time card, and I don't want to kind of spoil the surprise. I do want to be able to share that whenever it arrives, if it arrives. I had to reach out to the seller, and I was asking, do you have any updates? Because I purchased it a little bit before May 20th, and it shipped on the 20th, and it was received at the post office on the 20th of May, but then there's been no updates for the tracking ever since, which I had that experience recently. The item arrived, so I gave it some space, but then I contacted them shortly after Memorial Day, and I'm like, hey, just curious, do you have any updates on your side? Because I haven't heard or seen a thing about this card. And it was one that needed to go through eBay authentication, and usually they're very good about communicating every step as it's been received along the way. And so they reported back, actually, your purchase was in a time frame where we suspect that we had a massive amount of cards stolen within within the United States Postal Service. I was like heartbroken, because it was one I thought I got a very solid deal on, but it was also a card that it was on my big list to be able to pick up this year, and one that I was going to be forever grateful to have in my collection. And now it's likely been stolen. So now we're kind of in a holding pattern just to kind of see if it may show up in the next few days. I have no doubt that this dealer will make me right, because his reputation is more valuable than, the amount of money that we have between each other, but also it's guaranteed through eBay, right? But man, that was like the first time I had something potentially stolen. I've had things delayed or lost in the mail, and I'm hoping that it's just lost in the mail and it will just show up at some point. But I always buyer beware. I didn't think I was going to be defrauded here, and I don't think the seller thought that shipping it through the United States Postal Service was going to end up with them potentially like having it possibly stolen. But just really disappointed. I'll definitely keep you guys updated if it should happen to arrive. I'm giving that some space to see what's going to happen, and I may eventually get a refund in the next week or two, and then I might go on the hunt again to be able to find it. But I'm not doing anything at the moment regarding purchasing or asking for the refund, just because I'm hoping it might show up. But that's what I have for you guys at the moment. I'll be back this weekend with a few more videos. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and take care.